Well, hi everybody. Hey, Bio 30. So we're going to do an overview of Unit 3. I'll probably go through pretty quick here. And what I've got right above me here is a couple images, the key reproductive structures of male, female, and then right beside me, negative feedback control. There's really two, there's more than just two, but if I had to boil it down, there's really two super key hormones for our reproductive health and for the development of follicles, or the development of either, well, in male sperm, and the development in females of ovary or ovum, eggs, so sperm and egg. Those two key hormones, luteinizing hormone, that's got an interesting name, but follicle stimulating, or FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. I just used the word follicle to basically as a word for either sperm or egg. So follicle stimulating hormone gets sperm or egg production going, and luteinizing hormone gets either the testes or the ovaries. Because remember, hormones have a target, right? We've learned that in Unit 2, the hormone unit. Basically, the hormones have a target, and the target for those two hormones are the same in males and females. Well, in males, it's the testes, and in females, it's the ovaries. And what luteinizing hormone is going to do in the testes is get them to produce testosterone. Okay, so basically that's the hormone. It promotes muscle growth, deeper voice, little larger larynx growth. So basically turns guys into guys. And in females, luteinizing hormone causes the corpus luteum to produce estrogen. Yeah, so that's basically the female hormone. So just a bit of an overview there, but let's begin. I'm going to share my screen. So we'll take a look at the Unit 3 notes, and I'll highlight some of the key things to focus on for Unit 3. I was just mentioning, I sent off an email. If you started in May, there's about 14 weeks left, and essentially there's about 10 weeks of work though, so there's still lots of time if you're just starting Unit 3 now. Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5, Unit 6 would all take about 10 weeks, maybe then get about another week for the midterm and final in there, so about 11 weeks. And essentially, but you've got 14 weeks of time. So if you're still working in Unit 2, you are going to want to get finished on Unit 2. And hi there, just let me know in the text chat if you can hear me. We're already underway. I'm just pulled up the course site. So yeah, we're in Unit 3, and we're going to focus on some key things from these Unit 3 student notes. Everything you need is in those notes. The textbook can help, but you don't necessarily need it. The textbook is available online. You just need to search for it. There's a teacher at Roshep High School who posted the whole Bio 30 textbook. Probably that's not allowed, but nobody's complained in about 10 years or so since it's been there. So it's all good. And maybe the student who just joined can just send a message in the text that you can hear. It's all good to go. Just want to make sure the audio is working for you. But yeah, let's zoom in on the student notes. And yeah, this is of course, the first page. And like the image, the small images above me, important to know the male and female reproductive system. So the anatomy, the structures, the hormones, and there's a really good list in your notes. I'll just quickly show that one. I'll go to this page while we walk through the whole booklet here. But basically, page 10 summarizes. You're going to want to take page 10 and basically make a bunch of flip cards, a bunch of flashcards, connect them with drawings as well, because hormones have a production site, right, where they're produced, but then their target. I mean, that's the key concept with a hormone, is its target. So yeah, for our unit here, you want to know the anatomy, the structures, you want to know the hormones, and the process of gamete production. And gametes, fancy word for either production of sperm in males or production of eggs in females. And ultimately, a gamete, of course, it's got half the chromosomes, right? Because, a male sperm needs to meet up with the female egg, so it's got half the chromosomes from dad, half the chromosomes from mom, come together, forms what's called the zygote, and that's how we all started, as a single cell sperm and egg met, and half chromosomes from your mom, half from your dad. But ultimately, yeah, this unit really, that's more a bit on the genetics right there, what I just kind of walked into a little bit. Again, reproductive structures, reproductive hormones. I couldn't stress that enough. You need to know them. You need to know them like you know your name, like you know how to find your door in your house, wherever you live. Like you know where the fridge is, you know the taps, you know how to turn on a tap. Common knowledge. You want to start to make some of this stuff common knowledge so you're comfortable with it. So let's roll. That's the first page there right off in the notes. Jump into page 3. Again, goes through some of the primary sex characteristics of both males and females. Ultimately, it's testosterone is a big driving force for males. Estrogen, the female hormone, is a big driving force for females. But females also have testosterone and males also have estrogen. Usually a male will have more testosterone than a female, but there's wide variety of differences. And not always, but sometimes some of the best female athletes actually have a lot of testosterone. They're incredibly strong and fit, and that's one of the advantages of testosterone. It does build strength, it does build muscle, and it's completely natural to have variation, right? Like not everybody's exactly the same. So that's kind of key. So these videos, obviously, male reproductive anatomy, the gamete synthesis, so the production of sperm in males, critical to be watching those 2 videos and taking notes. There's some sample questions as well. A little hint, many of our sample questions, they're going to look very familiar, and not just this unit, but all of our units. So focus on definitely those sample questions, the other parts of the notes too. Okay, so yeah, it goes on page 5 and 7. So here we've got the male anatomy. Page 7 zooms in right in on the ovary, because the ovaries are incredibly important. Ovary is analogous or similar to the testes. Okay, so the testes, that's sperm production. Ovary, that's egg production. And ultimately, you need to know those 2 key facts, obviously, for comparing male and female. And it's really interesting how the hormones control, and I was mentioning that in the intro, and this is kind of a graphic, I know it's kind of tiny right now on the screen, showing you the negative feedback control of FSH and LH. FSH directly targets, in males, the testes, and in females, FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone. So here's a follicle here. Oh, the little egg. There we go. The ovum, another word for egg. So follicle stimulating hormone, we can kind of go, oh, okay, so it helps either build in males sperm or in females the egg. The other key hormone that's going to target the testes and the ovaries is luteinizing hormone. Now, luteinizing hormone is going to cause the testes to release testosterone. So basically, to really simplify it, luteinizing hormone is going to make males male. Luteinizing hormone on the female side. So luteinizing hormone, again, targets the ovaries, and it's going to cause the ovaries to release estrogen. So yeah, estrogen makes ladies ladies, women women, female female, basically. So yes, there's obviously a few more details here than that, but that's really critical. Page 5 and 7. Oh yeah, here are the summary of the key hormones, that are produced in either the ovaries or the testes. And I was just saying how estrogen is produced by the ovary, and that was, of course, stimulated by luteinizing hormone. So luteinizing hormone stimulates the ovary, and then the ovary will produce estrogen and also progesterone. And specifically, it's going to be this structure called the corpus luteum that produces progesterone. Now, progesterone is a really interesting one. Progestation. Okay, so gestation is grow a baby, basically. So progesterone, if a female gets pregnant, if a woman gets pregnant, then basically that's incredibly important. Progesterone is what keeps the pregnancy going. It's one of the key. It's super key hormone. And yeah, as you read through this unit and watch the videos, you're going to definitely run into that fact. But basically, it's going to target the uterus, which we'll take a look at in a second here, and it causes that uterus to thicken and to stay intact. The uterus is, of course, where the egg will go if it gets fertilized, right? And actually, why don't we take a look at the female reproductive structure? Right, I'm just going to scroll over to where that is, the key structures. Here we go. So page 8. So there's the ovary, and of course the ovary. We had a zoomed in view of the ovary, so now this is kind of zoomed out, more kind of regular sized, if you like. So the ovary is producing approximately in a human woman about 1 egg per month. Sometimes there can be 2, and sometimes there can be more, but that's generally how it works for folks. But I'm sure most of us know of people who are twins, and I don't personally know any triplets because they're actually pretty rare, but you never know. Got a big class, so there might be folks who actually have met or know of someone who's a triplet. But the point being that in general, there's just 1 egg produced, and it waits, and it could get fertilized. If it doesn't, it gets ejected, but also it's called menstruation when the wall of the uterus, called the endometrium, gets expelled. So every 28 days, the bleeding, the period, basically, right? And so progesterone, though, helps maintain the uterus, and the uterus is where the egg, if it gets fertilized, it'll get implanted, and then the first the embryo, then the fetus, then the baby will develop in the uterus, and that's what the period is. That's what menstruation is. It's the shedding of the endometrium, and it's approximately every 28 days. It's kind of interesting how that schedule works, just like clockwork, basically. I just wanted to go back to some of those key hormones for the either the testes and the ovaries. Again, testes making testosterone. Another interesting one that testes will make is inhibin. Now, if you think about it, follicle stimulating hormone causes the testes, and especially in males, to produce sperm, and a lot. Males produce about 1 billion sperm a day, so that's a lot, and that needs to be controlled. Because if that gets out of control, the testes will they'll produce way too much sperm. and what inhibin does is its name. When it's released, it'll inhibit. It actually shuts down the whole pathway. Basically, it sends a message to the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary to stop producing the follicle stimulating hormone. Right? So it actually, because remember, follicle stimulating hormone got the testes to start producing the sperm. Okay, produce sperm. Well, if the testes produce too much, I mean, that would really be a bad thing. But luckily the testes also produce inhibin, and inhibin will then cause the follicle stimulating hormone to be shut off, will then cause sperm production to be shut off. You'll need to be reading about that, about the negative feedback control. And that's definitely a super strong hint. You definitely need to understand negative feedback control, either in male sperm production or in female egg production. Super, super critical. And yeah, again, if you've got any questions, definitely put them into the chat, or feel free, you can take the mic too at any point if you've got questions. Okay, so that's page 7. I reiterated a little bit here on page 8. Again, making sure all of these structures, obviously, but particularly the uterus, and this thick wall here is called the endometrium, and essentially the the uterus right here. I've been pointing to the wrong. I am a biology teacher. Sorry, the endometrium, the uterus here, and so this very, very thick wall here is the endometrium, and again, that's where the egg will get implanted. Okay, kind of silly. I pointed to the wrong thing for the last couple discussions there, but anyway, we'll continue. Okay, so yeah, so that's page 8. Yeah, this video right here, hormone regulation in males and females. Super, super important to watch it, then do the reading like it says. Page 10, these are all of the key hormones. Again, you want to make kind of flip cards, flashcards for this stuff, and make sure you want to know it like how you know your name, like how you know your phone number, stuff like that. And if you think about it, there's literally thousands, at least 3,000 things we all memorize, trivia. So you can easily add a few more. You just do a little studying and it happens. It's pretty cool. Hormone regulation in the male reproductive system. We're just chatting about that a little bit. Page 11 shows that really, really good. So the hypothalamus, again, this is up in the brain, right? So this is a highly simplified model, right? So this would be up a very small structure up in the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary, specifically the anterior pituitary. And then, of course, is the testes. So, kind of way down mid part of the body. So GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. So it basically causes, so this is the key thing here, releasing hormone. So the RH, it causes the anterior pituitary to release LH and FSH. I probably mentioned these two hormones a lot already. So it's showing you how important these two hormones are. So it is really critical, especially if you're watching this by recording. I mean, hit pause and maybe read about them. You can even just search it on the internet or check in our notes, what these two hormones do, because it doesn't hurt to basically have them memorized as much as you have memorized your name. But ultimately, luteinizing hormone, there it is right there, causes the testes to produce testosterone. But then that'll cause a negative feedback and basically shut this pathway down. So essentially, it will tell both the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary, hey, turn it down. Because for a male, testosterone is great and all that, but if we produce too much of it, it eventually wouldn't be healthy. So essentially, there's just the right amount of everything, essentially, right? So just the right amount of testosterone, but then once there's kind of too much, it'll shut down the production. And this is what I was just chatting about with the production of sperm, right? So FSH is going to cause the testes to produce sperm, right? That's a good thing. But if there was too much sperm production, that would be a bad thing. So another interesting thing the testes do is they produce inhibin. And inhibin inhibits. It says, hey, anterior pituitary, shut down the production of FSH. It says, hey, hypothalamus, shut down the production of GnRH, right? If you think about it, GnRH makes the anterior pituitary produce FSH, right? So if you shut down the top, you shut down the whole thing. So again, it's really critical that our hormones be kept in balance. If they got out of balance, that leads to disease and problems, essentially. And that's an example of negative feedback control in males. And you definitely want to go through that again and know it well. Okay, jumping ahead a bit. We got the ovary here. I just want to see some of my notes. Oh, follicle development. So the production, and again, fancy word for egg or ovum, right? So this kind of shows, it's like a little movie, basically. Okay, we start here, we go there, they start to develop, they start to grow, it gets released. Now, will this egg get fertilized? Well, not necessarily, right? I mean, that's its job, if you like. Its job is to get fertilized, but most of the time, it doesn't. And then it just gets expelled. And the same thing with the uterus, the lining of the uterus gets expelled, the endometrium, and that's the period. And then the whole process starts again. So this little process here, this is about day 14 when ovulation happens of a 28-day cycle, right? So it takes a full, the full menstrual cycle is approximately 28 days, and it's rather interesting. It's very, it's very set that it's very similar. Billions and billions of women, and basically have almost the exact same kind of length of menstrual cycle. Another key structure here. So this part of the maturing follicle follicle that's in the ovary. stays in there and then turns into the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum produces progesterone and some estrogen. But if there's a pregnancy, if there's fertilization, this is super, super important, progesterone, because literally it says it in its name, progestation, grow a baby. That's what gestation means. It means to grow a baby. So yeah, you need to know this diagram, the structures that we're looking at here, and the hormones. I can guarantee you will see this diagram at least twice in a certain test. So, and then, oh yeah, there's the other one, the midterm and the final. So yeah, you're gonna see this one. This is critical. It's basic understanding too. And this is also part of page 16, you know, all of this information. Obviously you want to be reading this stuff, but while you're reading it, you're reading actively. You know, you're making your own notes, right? And then from those notes, you kind of summarize, make little memory cards and stuff. It's not just, and it never is. You can never just read it. You have to take notes. You have to tell your brain, hey, brain, this is important. You know, I got to drive it home. Watch the videos. There's other videos too. That doesn't hurt to do a search and watch a few other videos on the internet too. But I think I've mentioned this, how negative feedback control of FSH and LH are important. Kind of a reminder, FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, okay? So that's, you know, either going to produce the egg in a woman, in a female, or it's going to be producing sperm. You know, an interesting difference again there too, right? About 1 egg a month. And for males, about 1 billion sperm a day. But you know, it's just the differences of the system. Ultimately, sperm and egg, in one sense, are exactly the same thing, right? You know, sperm is going to have half the chromosomes in a human, 23, and the egg will have half, 23, 23, 23, makes a full 46. That's the full chromosome number for a human. Cool thing too, obviously, you know, as males, we're XY, right? So a male has an X chromosome and a Y. Females are XX. So it's the male that decides the sex of the baby, right? If you kind of think about it, so you got a sperm, and of course it's got 23 chromosomes, but one of them, is an X, right? Because if it was a male, you know, when a male makes a sperm, he can make X chromosomes with the X and can make chromosomes with a Y. So depending on which of these two gets to the egg first, because the egg, you know, let's say it's over here, the egg comes from a female. Well, females, again, are XX, right? And so female does not decide, and that used to be thought that way. You know, in ancient times, they figured that the sex of the baby, that it was whatever, the lady somehow, depending if she went out dancing or something, or, you know, sat underneath the moon or whatever, that she somehow chose the sex of the baby. But no, it's because of the sperm. Either that would be a male, right? XY. And if this little sperm gets in, this one, let's just draw it a little better, or grab it. If that one gets in, the XX, that'll be a female. So that's kind of cool, right? All right, so that was all talking about follicles, follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone, again, the target of both of these, right? Both of these is going to be either ovary or the testes. Luteinizing hormone in males, it's going to make the testes produce testosterone. In females, it's going to make the ovaries produce estrogen. So ultimately, you know, just kind of walking through this hormone one here. In the video, there's a video, and you're going to want to watch it as well, not just what I'm doing right here. But this video will go through and explain this question, and I think it's a really good idea that you focus on this specific question. I think it's a super idea for you. So this first hormone out of the hypothalamus, well, that was GnRH, right? Gonadotropin releasing hormone. A releasing hormone, it's going to cause the anterior pituitary to release FSH, right? Follicle, that's what hormone 2 would be, and to release LH, luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone basically focuses on the corpus luteum, also will interact with the growing follicles, but specifically what you want to know here in the corpus luteum, it's going to get it to make progesterone. And then that's going to cause a bit of a negative feedback, right? And down here, when we've got our follicle stimulating hormone, and this is going to be in a female. So in a female, hormone 4 would be estrogen. Estrogen will also negatively feedback that whole cycle. You know, because again, hormones are super powerful. You cannot have them just going full bore. That's also why any of the athletes that cheat and take, hormones like testosterone and insulin and stuff, growth hormone, that's a really bad idea. They're really going to negatively affect their health because the body wants to be in balance. All right. So that's about the structures, right? And I got them a little bit. If sperm and egg meet, there'll be a fertilization. An egg will get implanted into the uterus and the egg will start to grow. And basically, one of the key structures you need to know about is the placenta. And you need to know these 4 key structures of the placenta for a good reason. Because you might be asked that. But also, it's good to know. And, there's the baby growing. And yeah, so that's going to be kind of important. Another important thing is the hormone oxytocin. So oxytocin basically stimulates lactation. So essentially, by a baby, starting to suckle, then essentially oxytocin is released, and oxytocin actually causes the breasts to release milk. Oxytocin so causes contractions. Uterus also. So oxytocin is also released just before birth, basically, to get the uterus to start contracting. And it's actually an example of positive feedback because the more oxytocin is released, the more oxytocin is released. And that kind of makes sense that it needs to just be released, because essentially, the baby needs milk or the baby needs to be born is essentially the job of oxytocin. So yeah, it's pretty critical. What else we got here? I think, yeah, that was all that I wanted to focus on. There's obviously more than this. Let me pull back because there's lots of practice questions in these notes, right? So again, a tiny hint, the practice questions that you're going to see, like say, for example, this one on page 48, you might see something very similar to it again on a test thing. So yeah, so basically make sure to, you got to go through the whole thing and be writing your own notes, watching the videos, contemplating what you're learning, apply it to what you know, right? We've all got experience being adults, right? So we know a lot of this stuff, maybe not everything inside out, but take what you know and then learn some more from this unit because it's a great unit and you can totally apply it to yourself, right? Especially if you have kids, but even if you've ever run into a kid, if you've ever even seen a kid, you can apply this to what you've seen in your life. So yeah, so that's just another critical note that there's a bit more information in here, but maybe focus on some of the sample questions that you find in here. That's all I wanted to go through for the Unit 3 overview. I got a couple students here live, so maybe if you can let me know if you've got any questions. Definitely it's a good idea to watch this one again before you write the Unit 3 test. And for those of you who are watching it by recording, this is a good one to watch. I think even maybe at the beginning of Unit 3 and then one more time at the end before you write the test. But yeah, any questions to the 2 students that are here, maybe let me know just in the chat if it's just yes or no, it's all good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording probably right away, but sometimes if there's a question, I like to include it because if you've got a question, probably others in the class will have the same question. So yeah, I'll just wait a moment and if there's no questions, I'll definitely stop the recording, but I'll still be here. I'm not just going to shut the recording off and vanish on you. But yeah, I think we'll shut the recording down. So that's all for the Unit 3 overview. Again, right now, it's June 11th. So you have about, if you start at the beginning of May, you have about 14 weeks of time left. If you start Unit 3 right about now, and then stay on track in terms of the time for each of the units. So just going to quickly go through that. So Unit 3 is 2 weeks. You know, midterm, you don't need a week to study for the midterm, a couple days maybe. 2 weeks for Unit 3, 4 weeks for Unit 5, sorry, 2 weeks for Unit 4, 4 weeks for Unit 5, 2 weeks for Unit 6. You're looking at about 10 weeks, but you have 14 weeks of time as of right now. So always take note of that, how much time you have left. And again, if you're still working in Unit 2 or so, that's okay. If you're working on Unit 1, you do want to, at this point, really get that horse running and maybe go just a little bit quicker to get the course done on time. But yeah, I'm going to shut the recording down, so take care. The students that are here, I'm not going to vanish or anything, but just going to turn the recording off. Take care, everybody.